Welcome to the Entre Pastors podcast on YouTube. This is a show that helps pastors think, act, and thrive as prosperous entrepreneurs. Well, hello there, and welcome to the Entre Pastors podcast on YouTube. I'm John Sanders, one of the co-founders of Entre Pastors, and I just want to welcome you to this week's episode. Hey, if you are in ministry, if you are an entrepreneur, and if you're married, you then probably understand that there are some unique challenges that come along with all of that stuff. Marriage in and of itself can be challenging at times, and then when you add the pressures of pastoral ministry and entrepreneurial business into all of that, things can get a little bit funky from time to time, and that's exactly the area that today's guests speak into. They really speak into that intersection of marriage and entrepreneurship. And they found our platform and really wanted to serve this community. We had a great conversation with them, and I'm excited to share that with you. So today's guests, their names are Robert and Kaylee Fukui, and this is their specialty. This is how they serve. And you guys are in for a great conversation as you hear about how we can really improve our marriages as we are doing ministry and business. And I know you're in for a good one. So without any further ado, check out this conversation with our friends Robert and Kaylee Fukui. Here we go. Well, Robert and Kaylee, it's my honor and privilege to welcome you to the Entre Pastors podcast. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, so we were connected, I believe, by a mutual friend that's been a guest before on this podcast, Teresa McCloy. And before we recorded, we were just kind of talking about how we knew her and how we got connected. But for those who do not know you guys and the work that you do, give us just kind of a 30,000 foot overview of what is the work that you guys do in the world.
Well, I guess in short, we help married entrepreneurs have better work-life balance. So basically how to win on both sides of both marriage and business. We just found growing up as a PK myself and then Kaylee as an entrepreneur kid, that a lot of times you're working so hard building an organization that the family takes a back seat. And so growing up, when we started business together, we didn't want that for ourselves. And then in turn, we just noticed that the same things we experienced growing up, our clients were experiencing at the moment. So we kind of not shifted our focus, but added another focus of our business consulting to help them on the personal side of things too. Is as we're building this thing, what are we building for? And let's make sure that our marriage and our family is intact and actually thriving as we're building a business.
Yeah, well, this will be good. There's a lot of relevant content here for our audience because certainly we encourage our audience to get into some kind of entrepreneurial form of business. And also, most of our audience is involved in some kind of vocational ministry. And here's what I can tell you, and Robert, you probably know this well, having grown up as a pastor's kid, but just take pastoring alone in and of itself. That's an industry, if I can use that word, where sometimes we see that that part of our life get very out of balance, where we can put so much focus into building a church and serving other people and growing a ministry that we can ignore and neglect the family as that's happening. And there's many stories we could share of that. And now here we are saying, in addition to that, let's throw a business into this and start a business. And so we kind of have, maybe high risk might be the word to say with some of our audience that are not only serving in a church context, but are also, planting and launching and growing their own businesses. So this is definitely a relevant conversation to have about, keeping that balance there. I might start here with a question. I have heard many times people say that balance is a myth, like to try to achieve balance in life is a myth. Do you guys ever come up against that statement, or how would you respond to that when people talk about the elusiveness of this mystical balance?
Yeah, we use that word because that's one people understand and resonate with, and we understand what we're trying to achieve. It all starts with how you define balance. And we're always thinking of, when we hear about balance, everybody's trying to measure time issues, right? It's not a quantitative measurement. It's more of a qualitative measurement. As how do you make sure your marriage is winning, your family is winning, as well as your business is winning? So now we got to figure out, how do we do that? And it really doesn't take a lot of time to invest into your marriage and family to see it thrive while you're building your ministry. It's just being intentional about it. And so that's the things we talk about. We waste a lot of time in ministry and in business, right? Or in life in general.
Mhm.
And when all those time wasters, what if we devoted some of that time into just our own relationships?
Yeah. Well, back us up a little bit and tell us, how did you guys get into this? What has been the trajectory of your story, and how did you guys come to this place of saying we see the need to help other entrepreneurs with this balance and keeping their marriages, their family life a priority, and all of this? Kind of share that story if you don't mind.
I think for me, it kind of came back around from childhood because the business became the mistress. My dad was working 6 days a week. He wasn't home much. There was 4 kids, strong-willed, and frankly, I think he just wanted to be out of the house where it was quiet and he had a little bit of um, stability maybe in his life where he could do what he wanted to do as opposed to, be around the family and the kids going crazy. And it just, my family really suffered from it. He wasn't around. My mom had a hard time to this day. I don't think he was at my high school graduation. And that was really tough on me.
Wow.
So that was part of the beginning of the process.
And then as a pastor's kid, I mean, experienced pretty much the same thing. Just that my dad was focused on the ministry. We just spoke at a ministry event recently, and I asked the audience, and I said, "Are you forsaking your family for the sake of the ministry?" Like, we got God's calling, yes, that's great, but it's still a vocation, and so that does not put itself. You don't put that over family. And so when I was growing up, I didn't want to be a pastor. And I think a lot of that was more of a resentment of what the ministry stood for, which was really the wall between me and a better relationship with my dad. And so I
Wow.
think, speaking to your audience, I think if you're having struggles even with your kids, it might have a lot to do with the fact they're just acting out because they're just wanting attention.
Hmm.
I mean, I can just say that for myself, right? And then Kaylee for herself too. The kids are acting out. They might do the whole prodigal son thing, kind of like I did. And I can just say for myself, I think it just had more to do with resentment of what the ministry represented. And it took, well, meeting Kaylee to really bring me back to the Lord. And so, but now I have a different perspective. I said, wait a second, working in the Fortune 500 arena, I saw what building something well without having to sacrifice personal time. You think even in a corporate setting that it's grinded out, grinded out, grinded out, which it is in a lot of sense. But I happened to be in a corporation that really valued work-life balance. And I could see that, oh, there's a way to do this. You just have to be intentional about how you do it. But the reason why our life gets out of balance is we respond to everything else. It's up our own marriage and our own family. The ministry comes first, the congregation comes first. Your calendar fills up with one appointment after another. You're responding to things as opposed to being more proactive about, wait a second, we need to have some boundaries in place to protect, make sure I have personal time with my wife, make sure I have some quality time with my kids. And then the ministry or our business gets the rest, right? In a sense. And so how do we do that better? So in the business and the ministry, how do we just do that better, not put more time in?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you guys say is that both of you, as children growing up, you kind of saw the unhealthy side of this thing, which many could relate to that and say, yes, I've seen it as well. Is it fair to say then that as you guys came together in your adult life and started your own family, did you kind of get this right from the beginning, or is this story an outflow of some of your own, like following the roadmap that we were given growing up? Sometimes we repeat those same patterns, or did you guys really set a much healthier pathway for yourself right out of the gate with your own story?
Well, I could say I'll give some credit to Kaylee here as far as getting ourselves on the right track, just in marriage in general, and to be able to understand how to have better balance. A month after I'd met Kaylee, she suggested I go to counseling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just let that sit right there. It's like, like I don't even know. I barely know her. Are we even dating? But the kind of the backstory about that was I lost my first wife in a tragic car accident.
Mm.
She was 32, I was 35. Childhood sweetheart. I actually met her at a church camp. Kind of grew up together, and then we started dating after college. And then 5 years into our marriage, she's driving down the road on her way to work, 10 minutes from our house, and gets in a car accident and just dies at the scene.
Wow.
And so, that also for me personally was also a turning point about redefining success. It's like, what is really important in life, right?
Mm.
I mean, you're in my I'm in my career. She was in her career, and we're both achieving. We both got our first house. We got a puppy. All the check the box kind of things, right? As far as success goes. But then all of a sudden this happens, and you're just like, oh, that doesn't a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter anymore,
Mm.
right? And then that was kind of my path on kind of redefining success to make sure, there really is relationships first, right? I mean, I would give everything to have that time back or have another moment with her, but of course I won't. And that's another lesson is, once the time passes, you don't get that time back, even if your kids are still alive or your spouse. But so Kaylee was, when I met her, she was like, okay, I want to make sure you're healthy. You've grieved well enough to really have a relationship. And so to her credit, she really suggested I go to counseling, which I did. It turned into just 2 years of relationship counseling till the time we got married. And a lot of things we talk about, like setting boundaries and all that, between work and business, work and home, and even in-laws and all that kind of stuff, finances, all those things we kind of worked out with during counseling.
Hmm. Well, because I knew he would always love his previous wife, and I was okay with that, but I wanted to make sure he had his room in his heart for me. I remember some of the girls in my Bible study said, "Oh, well, that's great. There's no ex-wife." And I'm like, "No, but I don't want to be competing with a ghost." And
Sure.
so he started counseling. Then I ended up going with him not too long after that. And because neither one of us had a great example of what a healthy marriage looks like. And I love my parents, but I definitely did not want a marriage like theirs. And so we were really intentional about changing things for the better.
Yeah, and like I said, to her credit, she didn't want to repeat the past as far as her parents' marriage and even like my parents' marriage. I mean, they're pastors, but still, they don't teach conflict resolution in seminary for some reason.
Wow.
And so we learned that kind of stuff. And so we learned how to navigate these issues and talk about, how much do you really want to work? And when I went to business, she was asking me, do you want to travel a lot? And I had to think about it because, without that question, I would have just probably responded to any opportunity that came my way. But she started asking some questions, and then we started, even through counseling, just kind of help develop what does healthy boundaries look like, between work and home and with in-laws, like I said earlier. And so that kind of set us on the course that when I did start my own business and left the corporate life, I even fell in the same trap like our parents is working a lot to try and build this thing. And then I had to say time out to myself. I mean, I'm going to bed at 2 a.m., and by the time the weekend hits, even though I wasn't working on the weekends, I was so wiped out that I just want to take a nap on Saturdays and Sundays. And even though I wasn't technically working, I just was mentally and emotionally exhausted. And so I wasn't even present for Kaylee even when I wasn't working. So I had to say time out, and she was gracious, saying, okay, I know this is a season till he transitions out of corporate life. But even in that moment, I was sitting at my desk at 1 a.m. one evening, and I'm like, wait a second, what am I doing? I'm just repeating what my dad, her dad did. And I'm like, is this God's best?
Mm.
Like, is this God's best that even in a transitional moment, is it fair? Does God want me to sacrifice my quality time with Kaylee so I can build something? And so I questioned that, and I was like, wait a second, I don't think it's in scripture that says, oh, you sacrifice your marriage for the sake of even temporarily for this. And so I had to question these things. Like, okay, how do I do this better? That's the question. So instead of putting more time in to build a business, how do I do this better? How can I set a boundary of getting to bed by 11 p.m. as opposed to 2 a.m. So that was the first boundary I set. Then within that parameter, I said, okay, what do I do to be more productive in the time I have? And meant I had to say no to a lot more things than I was taking on. So that's kind of the short or long of getting into where we are now.
Well, that's helpful. So a word that I hear keep coming from you guys in this conversation is the word intentionality. That it sounds like you have been and you've learned to be and encourage others to be intentional about, doing the things you're doing on purpose. I have a question for you in regard. You mentioned starting a business, so you're kind of in corporate America, and then you started a business. Is this the business that you started, this work that you're doing with couples, or was there a different business and now this is an additional one? I'm just looking for clarity on that.
Yes, it was business consulting. My experience has been marketing and sales, and so I did marketing consulting, but as we're helping small family business, they needed a lot more help than just marketing. They needed help in just doing business better. They were working
Mhm.
really, really hard, like her parents, like my dad. And I said, wait a second, it's not a marketing issue so much. You're just being very inefficient, and you're not as productive as you could be. So therefore, that's why you're spending more time in there. And then we saw what was happening at home. One client after another, same issue in the business, it was affecting home. And that's when I tapped Kaylee and I said, there's a thing here that what we've experienced growing up was not that unique. And so these entrepreneurs are facing the same thing, and we're helping them build something, but what are we helping them build for? And so we would ask that question to our clients. And then because of our experience in being in counseling ourselves, working those things for our own marriage and for our own business work-life balance issues, we just basically helped implement into our clients. So it just went from business consulting to then it just added that kind of marriage and family piece to say, let's do this holistically. How do
Gotcha.
we build this thing holistically, not just build a business and not just help your marriage, but you got to build both well.
Yeah. So if you were to sit down with a couple or an individual, say you just have a real brief time to visit with them, maybe you're sitting down for a cup of coffee or a meal or something like that, and they're saying, "Man, I'm struggling." Give us kind of the framework. What is it if you were to try to approach that from a high level without getting too deep into the weeds of all the issues of things that come up in a couple's life or in a home? What's kind of the framework? What is the nuggets that we can give to our community and to our audience here that would be helpful for them to think about as they think about being intentional in keeping their family at the forefront as they're growing their business and their ministry success?
So for me, what comes to mind is we have weekly meetings, which we're going to have ours this afternoon today. So we sit down, we talk about our finances, we go over our date night, we talk about what projects we have coming up in the future. We talk about our schedule, because if Robert's got a lot of speaking engagements or different things going on, I like to know ahead of time what the expectations are so then we can plan something when things calm down a little bit. And we do quarterly getaways, our vacation, because honestly, in our house, if it's not on the calendar, it just doesn't happen. I love to be spontaneous, but Robert's more the planner, which comes in handy. It used to bug me, but now I now I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we talk about the recipes for success. Well, that's what kind of what we start with. How do you define success? And then there's four quadrants in your life, essentially, four basic quadrants: yourself, your relationship, and then your business or your ministry, and then your wealth building. And so start with yourself. Like, what are the non-negotiables? Like Kaylee was talking about the non-negotiables for ourselves. Like we start in prayer every morning, and then we have our weekly meetings, and then we have, which is 90 minutes on a Monday afternoon, and then once a quarter, we try to do some kind of little getaway or something, and then once or twice a year, kind of more extended vacation. So those are like our non-negotiables in the course of a year, and it's not a lot of time, right? I mean, prayer time, 15, 20 minutes. I mean, half an hour, whatever, but whatever you need to give, but just devote that time. It's not a lot of time. 90 minutes on a Monday, in the course of a week, that's not a lot of time in the course of a week, right? So those are some non-negotiables that can really help us stay connected and strengthens our marriage, regardless of how busy life can get. And then on yourself, the same thing, quiet time. We both have our quiet time and our prayer time. How you start the morning yourself and with each other is important. And it's also biblical. Jesus did it too, right? I mean, how you start the morning, get away from the quiet time to prayer and build your spiritual life as well as yourself. And science also shows that's also important. How you start the day is important.
Yeah.
There is heart disease research on heart disease back in Science magazine that got published in the 80s, and it showed that an incidental finding from that research was that the most common time for a heart attack was at around 9 a.m.
Mm.
Because as they dug into it, what it showed was when you're resting, you're sleeping in a horizontal state. When you go into a vertical state, your body needs time to acclimate, and all the systems have to. If you rush into the day and put more stress, like looking at your texts and emails and all that stuff, and rushing into the day, it creates unnecessary stress in the body that can trigger something like that. And so how you start the day is so important. So those are non-negotiables that we have for ourselves and for a couple. And it's not a lot of time. And
Yeah.
yet it really builds up your marriage. And in fact, Pew Research showed that couples that stay together, the divorce rate was 1 out of 1,152.
Pray together.
Pray together actively. So not
Yeah.
just mealtime prayer, but active, dedicated, intentional prayer time. The divorce rate was less than 1%.
Wow.
And then how many pastors actually pray actively together, during the day,
Yeah.
right? Because I think you guys know the stats probably better than I do. It's not as much as you would think,
Yeah.
right? And so just those little simple things can really help set yourself up for your marriage to be strong and yourself to be strong. Then you actually have more energy to really devote into the ministry and actually do your ministry better because you're filled up and your relationships are filled. And when you know your spouse has your back because you poured into her or him, you have just a greater sense of energy going into whatever you're doing, whether it's
Yeah.
business or ministry, right? And
Yeah.
so that's a quick, synopsis. How do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of your spouse on a regular basis?
Yeah,
So I
that's
just want to,
helpful. Yeah, go ahead, Kaylee. Sorry.
I was going to say, sorry, I was going to say to the husbands out there, there's nothing like having your husband pray over you. Oh my gosh. It's just so encouraging and just, it's a great way to start your day.
Yeah. That's a good word and a good reminder for all of us. One thought I had as I was listening to, well, both of you, but Kaylee, as you were talking just about, planning the schedule and having things on the calendar. Literally earlier today, I was on a coaching call with a potential client, hopefully someone from our community that was their big concern, was just essentially a lot of their questions came down to time and managing all of that. And one thing I have found is that we have this conversation often with people in our community around structuring your time. And there's kind of that mindset out there that some people are like, I don't want to be, I want to live by my calendar. I don't want to live and die by my calendar. And yet here's what I have found interesting. I'll make the statement and you guys can respond to it. It seems to me that the people who have the most amount of freedom and margin in their life are the ones whose calendars look the most full, like not because they're busy, but because they're telling their life what to do. They're being intentional about saying, this is what I'm going to be doing. And it's that structure provides that ability versus, I know it sounds a little counterintuitive when you think, well, I'll just kind of see what today brings. But then you find yourself in reaction mode to everything else that you didn't plan, that other people planned, and you're just reacting to it instead of living the life that you're intentionally planning on living. So, I'll let you guys respond to that, but I'm constantly encouraging our people, if you're going to be in this space, making an impact in pastoral ministry, starting a business that's successful and not losing your family in the process, you're going to have to take control of that calendar and tell your time what to do. You've got 24 hours in the day, and you can't just be sloppy in how you respond to it. So go ahead and respond. Give me your thoughts on that. But those are some things I was thinking as I heard you talking about that.
I was going to say, if you want to be productive, you really have to have it on the calendar. It's so easy to get sidetracked and get totally down a different trail or path than what the Lord wants you to do because, all these shiny things people are pulling at you, but are you really doing your purpose? You just have to be so intentional about that. And that's part of our weekly meetings is we talk about, are we on track? Because like I said, it's easy to get sidetracked and go a totally different direction. And then Robert's like, no, honey, you need to come back over this way or I need to pivot a little bit because it's easy. I think you stay on track a little bit easier. But
Yeah, but no, you nailed it, John. I mean, you do have to plan, and we also plan to be spontaneous. Building in margin. Like when we were on our book tour, we were on the road for 6 weeks. We actually cruised through South Dakota. We actually cruised through Sioux Falls. We were on the road for 6 weeks, and part of it, was to talk about our book, and also to see the country at the same time and have fun. But I didn't want to have our calendar so packed that it didn't leave room for opportunity. So we just actually padded our calendar a little bit to create room and create margin for opportunity because we got introduced to people along the way during our path on our road trip. I mean, people were introducing us to people like we knew they were going to be in a town and all that stuff. And so we had margin to be able to stop and have lunch with people that we didn't know, or to do a book event that wasn't even planned when we left Pasadena. So even in our calendar, I kind of built in margin to allow for those kind of things. So you're right, is that you get more freedom when you plan, and even
Hmm.
planning for be able to have room for opportunity and spontaneity.
Well, too, and I also want to say boundaries are important because sometimes you have to say no to good things. When we were on our book tour, there was no way we could do it all and do it well. So we had to say no to a lot of things, and it could have been things that we loved, we really wanted to do, but it just the timing was not right and it didn't fit into our calendars. So we just had to say no for now.
Yeah, that takes discipline to do that. I'm still learning that. I would give myself barely a passing grade in that arena of saying no. I say yes way too much, I think. So still a
I
work
can
in
relate.
progress.
I can relate. I'm a recovering yes man.
Yes is so fun to say. There's so much potential in yes, but yeah.
Exactly.
But
It's
Yeah.
all,
sometimes, go
but
ahead.
when
Good
you're
to see
married to
people
the yes
smile.
man,
Yeah.
Finish that thought, Kaylee, about being married to the yes man. My wife would want you to say whatever it is you're getting ready to say next.
when you're married to the yes man, then that means that's going to be less family time, right? Because you're giving your time to somebody else. And so you're making that, I feel like sometimes you're making that more of a priority than your family because you don't want to tell them no, but sometimes it's easier to tell your family no.
Yeah.
Yeah, she hit me. She hit me between the eyes at one time when she asked me something like that. Was okay when you're saying yes to that, you're saying no to me. So which one do you want to say yes to?
Mm.
And I'm like, oh God, that was not fair. But she was right, and I'm like, oh, I really need to. I have to. That's when I started really reevaluating what I was saying yes to,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, she's right. I mean, she is right, even though it hurt, but she was right.
Well, I think too, part of it, you had a hard time saying no. And so then everybody would just be coming to Robert and wasting, not everybody, but a lot of people be wasting his time or they're not serious. And they're just, I'm like, honey, you're not being that productive because these people aren't serious with your time. And
I think it was also an identity issue. I think that's a lot that goes with it. As we get our identity gets wrapped up in what we do and what we know and the skills that we can provide for other people. And so, when you get asked to do something, it kind of strengthens your ego a little bit, right?
Right.
And so it's really a test of identity, when we're constantly having to say yes or feel like we have to say yes, and just being more comfortable with myself. Um, that's when things kind of start to shift. It's really say, no, who am I really? My identity is not tied into what I do and what I can give to other people, and who am I really? And so, anyways, all to say is, I think a lot of it is tied to the way we're raised growing up is achievement, achieving
Yeah.
sports, achieving grades, achieving your career, your sport, your business, and your ministry. And so that's what we get, our identity gets wrapped up into that.
Yeah. Les, did you have something there? It looked like you were getting ready to jump in. I didn't want to cut you
I
off.
was coughing.
Oh,
I put it
sorry.
on mute so I could cough.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. All right. Well, guys, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned your book tour, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. You recently wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about that. And I'd love to get some of the big idea of what's the book about.
So it's called Tandem, the Married Entrepreneur's Guide for Greater Work-Life Balance. And to summarize it, it really does talk about those four quadrants. We talk about how to do better with yourself, with your relationships. There's a lot in there about conflict resolution, right? Because that's the crux of a lot of just moving forward in life and business or ministry. Being able to come to agreement is so important. And we get so caught up spending so much more time and energy disagreeing over the little things that prevents us from moving forward on the big things. And even when you're, because a lot of people in ministry, I mean, your spouse is obviously included. So you're doing ministry and together, and just your ability to make decisions can either help your ministry move forward or not. With a lot of our clients, the husband and wife teams, a lot of the big issues in preventing growth in their business is just their ability to make decisions, just to come to agreement.
Yeah.
Because without it, you're at a stalemate, right? And then on the business side of things, it's how do you just do business better? How do you become more efficient with it? So it's again time, right? How do we really evaluate the time we're spending in the business, make sure it's on the right things? All the money we're spending in the business, are we getting a good return on investment, whether it's on even it's marketing or operationally or whatever? Are we getting a good return on things that we're spending? our time and our money in. And so it's really about how to be more efficient with it. And this will go in ministry as well. It's time and money, right? It's time and money that goes into building anything. And so how do you just do that better? And then when you're more efficient with it, you actually can scale the business or the ministry and actually gain some freedom from it. So it's not about putting more time in, it's about being more productive with the time and money you put in. And then just reevaluating some of your wealth issues. You talked about, having people in ministry maybe create a side business or something like that. The first thing I would look at is how do we be more efficient in our ministry and how we can grow that. God's called you to do this to help a lot of people. And how do we, not just to grow the ministry for the sake of growing the ministry, but it's really about the impact that you're making, right? So how can we do this a little bit better so we can grow and help more people? And then instead of a side business or side hustle, how about just maybe do we invest better? And it doesn't take a lot of money to build wealth, right? It's more intentional. It's time and money. Whatever money you can put into investing into even just something as simple as a mutual fund can build. And if you're just consistent with it and allow compound interest to take effect, you can build, $1 million. It's $500 a month in a mutual fund that's doing 10 to 11%. Oh, in 30 years is $1 million. And so just something like that. And that's some of the, one of the things we were fortunate to do was just invest from the early on. And now we're able to really build something and not have the stress of trying to build more income, but be more focused on what we're building, and we can build more, because sometimes these side hustles can actually be, it just takes time away and focus away from the core thing. And so sometimes that can actually be more of a distraction than it could be an actual real benefit. And so anyway, just really evaluating things and how do you just do it better.
Yeah, I think the pushback you would get from many in our audience is when they hear you say, just put $500 a month for 30 years aside in a, good growth stock mutual fund. They would say, that would be amazing if I had $500 a month to put aside for investment. I don't even have enough to put braces on my daughter's teeth or, for our family to get away and take a vacation this summer, let alone think about retirement. So there's kind of that, where in some cases I go the other side with our community and say, I encourage you to put more focus into building the business and actually feeding your family. Jesus said he would take care of his church. You focus on developing that income stream that meets the needs adequately for your family. So there's a tension in there is what I'm tapping into. There's not an easy solution for many. And it's not an either or. They're coming to us because they're saying, I feel called to this ministry, but I also need to be able to provide for my family. And right now, retirement's not even in the question. We're not even funding a retirement. In some cases with pastors, they've been counseled to opt out of Social Security and they've got nothing, being set aside for the future. So the tension is real in our community where we're trying to help them figure this stuff out. And in the short term, therein lies one of the challenges is we're asking for, not asking for, but we're suggesting more focus on getting a business up and going in addition to leading in the church. So for a season, this is going to be, there's going to be some work required. There's going to be some hard decisions that have to be made. So I don't really know what my question is in that, other than to just tap into that tension that exists in this community going, we got some challenges. We got to figure these things out. But the good news is it is figure outable. We can do this.
So it's two things, right? It's again, look like just even a business. There's a lot of small businesses that are struggling too, just like a small ministry. And so we come across them as well. So the same issue. So the first thing we look at is what's going on in the business, what's working, what's not. How do we amplify what's already working? Because regardless of how you feel the ministry is not doing, there's something going well. And a lot of times we overlook what is actually working really well and start to do more focus on that. So it's the widow and the oil thing where, when the widow went to Elisha and asked basically for a word, right? How do I get out of this mess of this massive debt and the creditors are coming for my kids? Elisha just responded with a question. What do you have?
Wow.
So the solution is always within, but a lot of times we're looking externally before we look internally and say, what is the oil jar of oil that we have that we can use to replicate and multiply what we do? And on the investment side, You may not be able to start with $500 a month, but I would start with something. It's the
Yeah.
parable of the talent. It's not about how many talents you have. It's the fact that you just invest something,
Yeah. That's
because
good.
that talent is going to multiply. But the longer you wait before you start to invest, and if you wait till, okay, once my income's at a certain level, or I get my business or my ministry at a certain level, and then I'll invest, you can't make up that time. It's really
Yeah.
hard to make up that time. So whether it's $1 a month or $50 a month or something, you just start putting it in and
Yeah.
let it multiply. The time will be a factor. And then it creates a new habit, because when you start seeing your income grow, your wealth grow, it actually creates more momentum and more encouragement to put a little bit of money in and find out ways in your current income and expenses to say, how do we rebudget to be able to put a little bit more money in? Right?
Yeah.
It just creates a new habit. And so first I would always look internally into your ministry. What's working that we really double in our focus on to grow? And then on the investment side is, how much can we scrape up now, regardless of the amount? It just puts something in.
Yeah.
And I want to say
Go ahead.
too, a budget is really important because people say they don't have the money, which they probably don't. But when you start keeping track of all the things you're spending and you're going to Starbucks every day or every other day, you'd be surprised how fast that adds up. Or people, their iPhones, their monthly bill, things like that. You'd be like, I remember this one gal, a friend of ours, started keeping track of how much money she spent going out to eat. She goes, "Oh, I don't spend that much." When she started keeping track, she goes, "Oh my gosh, I spent $1,500." She had
Yeah.
no idea, and she had no
Right.
money. She always said, "I'm broke all the time." But she was like so surprised, and she's like, "Oh my word."
Yeah.
And so then she was able to make different choices and decisions.
Yeah, that's a good word. I often challenge that mindset when someone comes to us with that. Well, I can't afford it. It's like maybe, but maybe not. Oftentimes we can afford about anything we want to afford if we look for ways to do that. Um, what are the types of business owners that you enjoy working with, or do you work with people all over the spectrum, or do you kind of have a certain niche of business owners that come to you for help?
Yeah, it's all over the board as far as the types of business. Our niche are the couples that would just want to do it better.
Yeah.
They're sensing the stress and they know they want a solution. They're both in it saying, "Hey, this is not working. We want help." And so that's what brings us joy, is the fact that they're both coming in saying, "We want to do this better. How do we do it?" And
Yeah.
so when they come in with both of them coming in with that attitude, then I don't say it's easy to work with them, but it is easier in a sense that it's just not the wife or the husband coming in saying, "Hey, fix my wife," or "Hey, fix my
Right.
husband," right? They're
Right.
they're both saying, "Okay, we need help. We're not doing this very well. How do we do this better?" So the industries are all across the board, because in principle, the issues are always the same. There's just some inefficiencies of how we're spending our money and the return that we're getting, whether it's in a marketing issue or operational issue or whatever. We just look in the business and just assess what's going on, what's working well, what's not, and what needs to be fixed. And a lot of times that alone increases the bottom line without having to try and go chase more sales. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times they're coming to me because of my marketing experience and go, "We want more sales." And I look at it going, "Well, right now, based on your profit margins, more sales would actually create more stress in your business, which actually can do your business in,
Mm.
and create more stress just on you personally, the staff, and then your relationship with your wife. Let's fix the business first. Let's fix the business internally and make it run more efficiently." And that in turn just reduces a lot of expense issues, which increases your profit margins without having to go chase more sales. So, anyways, all that to say is a longer answer than you wanted, but basically
Okay.
the niche is our, those couples that come in saying, we want help.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what are the ways that you work with clients? Like if someone wanted to reach out to you guys for help, what are the different resources that you have available for them?
Well, the cheapest way is our book, the Tandem. That's $20, and then we will, if they want, like whether it's a group coaching, we can put them in a group of like 5 to 8 other couples, or if they just need one-on-one attention, then we have kind of like a 7-week on ramp where we do a 7-week 7 sessions with them to help them develop their vision statement, help them, give them some tools to be able to do conflict better, or really come to agreement. How do they assess their time issues and get on the same page and get those weekly meetings started. And then just look in the business. There's the three stages we look at in the business: the time and money and performance issue that we help them navigate to create some kind of a plan of action or a life and business plan, basically.
That's awesome. Well, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to either connect with you guys, to get a copy of your book? Where do they find you online?
Or you can just go right to marriedentrepreneur.co and everything's there. Our contact, you can actually schedule a 30-minute free consultation, as well as the link for the book is on there as well. And our podcast, Power Up Your Marriage and Business.
And our social media is Power Couples by Design.
Powered Couples by Design. All right, we're going to put all the links to that in the show notes. Real quick on the podcast, I always like to geek out with fellow podcasters. What is, of all the stuff that you guys do, you've got the book, you've got the coaching, you've got the podcasting. Is there something that you find that's kind of a favorite for you? Do you love all of it? Like what's your sweet spot as far as, your platform and your business? That's one of the things we encourage pastors to look at in terms of creating a business, is around monetizing a message in all these different ways, by building a platform that's serving people. So what do you love about the stuff that you do in terms of the platform that you've built? What's your favorite part of it?
Go ahead.
Oh, there's so many, but I guess at this moment when you ask the question, I'd say my podcast, or our podcast, we meet so many interesting guests and people. We just have a great time. And I'd also say our clients, we build such strong relationships with them that you feel like you just want to be a part of their lives, a lot of them. And it's just so fulfilling to see businesses be able to grow and their families strong as well too, that they're able to move forward and be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The podcast has definitely been fun. It's even helped us grow closer together, learning how to host something together.
Yeah.
But definitely the relationships with our clients, and all of our clients live outside of California, and so when we get a chance to visit, we just got back from Alaska last week, visiting one of our clients, and it was such a life-giving time. It didn't feel like business. It's at a point where it's not business anymore. It's just, you're just friends.
Yeah.
You're just helping them, come alongside of them, and the gratitude they have, and just, anyways, it's so fun. That's just, we have fun what we do, for sure.
Well, I love that. I love the work that you guys are doing, helping married entrepreneurs. And I'm even encouraged with you sharing that, because I want our community to hear that this can be life-giving and fun. And there's some pastors out there that need to be reminded that it's possible to have that, to get back to that. So grateful for your time. Les, you got anything before we wrap up?
Thank you both so much. It's been so good and uplifting and life-giving, and I'm sure that there are so many people that are, I'm encouraged by it. And Paige and I have a awesome relationship and marriage, but I'm just encouraged to hear the things that you all are doing, and
Thanks, Les.
how you're pouring into people that are, in business, in ministry, just doing life. So thanks for all you're doing. What are you going to say, John?
Thanks, Les. No, to John, I was just going to respond to John's point about life-giving. We just did a business conference, and it's actually these pastors that actually put it on and that hosted it. And a lot of what we focused on in the conference was about relationships. And she at dinner after the conference, she said, thank you for bringing that up, because I need to reevaluate my relationships. I'm always pouring out. It can be kind of life sucking, because you're always pouring out to people, right? And she's like, I don't have enough of those healthy, life-giving relationships.
That's good.
And because it's life-sucking, life-draining, it's at a point where she gets empty, right? And then she's not as effective anymore either. And so, because I told her, I said, I told the group, I said, you want to have relationships in three sections. It's those that you want to go up to, like kind of like almost like mentors, and you can learn from. And then there's your peers, those relationships you're next to, those kind of your peers, and those are just people you can encourage each other. And then there's the ones below you where you're lifting up, right? And if you're always pouring into the people that are lifting up, you are going to get a point that you're kind of dry. And so you want to surround yourself with also those other, the one and twos, the up and the next twos. And so it's more life-giving. So you have more energy to give to those that you're pulling up.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm glad you said that. And I think it's okay. I want to give our audience permission just to admit that in pastoral ministry, much of our focus is pouring into others. Nothing wrong with that. It's part of the calling and it's honorable. But if we're not intentional, there's that word again, to get others that are pouring into us. It is not selfish to have others pouring that life-giving, nurturing into us, because without it, we see many pastors going that way of burnout, and they get to the point where I've got nothing left to give. I have given and given and given, and there's no more to give. And so that's a really timely word, and I'm confident someone in this community is going to be encouraged and blessed by that. Maybe even a bit convicted with that we're trying to provide that. We're trying to provide that community of life-giving relationships where you are affirmed and poured into, and not having something required of you or expected of you. So thank you for calling that out. That's really good.
You're welcome,
John Page has a way of putting that. She says, I've given, and now I'm just give out.
Yeah. It happens.
Moms know what that's like. Moms know the feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Give and give till they give out.
Well, Robert and Kaylee, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you, and we'll put all the links to your platform in the show notes for this episode, and encourage our audience to go look more into what you guys are doing. And we're grateful for your time that you've poured into us today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome,
thank
John.
you, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for watching this episode of the Entre Pastors Podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we release a new episode. If you'd like to get connected to other pastors who are learning to think, act, and thrive as prosperous entrepreneurs, then we invite you to check us out on Facebook. Just search for the Entre Pastors Connect group, answer a few of our simple questions there, and we'd love to include you in the conversations. And if you're really ready to go to the next level, then we invite you to join our Entre Pastors membership community. When you become a monthly subscriber, you will receive access to courses, exclusive community, and coaching that will help you along in your own Entre Pastors journey. If there's anything else we can do to serve you, please visit us at entrepastors.com, and we will do our best to serve you there. God bless everybody. See you soon.